Hello everyone, welcome to Slipjoint Sawyer. Today I'm going to show you a SAK hack slash a Victorinox mod that I've seen online very recently, and it's sort of come about from two products I picked up for my Victorinox sort of user knives. And I picked up both of these. They're from Tortoise Gear. So we have the Firefly Helix Tinder. So this sort of winds into the corkscrew, as you can see here. But if you do cut them in half, you obviously get twice as many. Obviously not as long of a use from just the one, but you can retain the corkscrew screwdriver, which is what I wanted to do. Was one of the main reasons why I cut them in half, and it fits in there really nice and snugly. And along with that, I picked up the Firefly sort of ferrule rod for the Victorinox. I wanted to add a couple of these, and there's a couple of bits I like about it. So, you know, you've got the glow in the dark top, so if you do drop it at night, you're going to be able to see it. And it does replace the toothpick. As you can see, I've got the toothpick in here. Bit of information on the inside. I will let you hold it here for a few seconds so you guys can read it if you wish. But these are both available on Heine Haynes very, very reasonably. I think I've picked up both for 20, 22, 23 pound for both sets. And you get an 8-pack here, and I believe this was a 3-pack. So, but a very reasonable pickup. Definitely recommend you check these out. But on with today's mod. So it is for the secret fourth slot on the back of a 91mm with the plus scales. So when you do pick up the ferro rod, of course, it does replace the toothpick. So I didn't really want to lose that. And I noticed online there was a way that you could reopen the channel here, which would normally be for the smaller tweezers. Because if you have a model, for example, like the Timekeeper, and there's a clock on the front, obviously all the stuff behind it, you can't get the tweezers in like on a regular model. So they moved the tweezers to the back, made them a little bit shorter and fit them in here. But of course, with normal 91mm, this slot isn't available. So I've managed to find a way to modify it and modify a toothpick so that you can retain that slot and have a little bit of extra functionality as well as keeping the ferro rod, because I do use the toothpick quite a lot and I didn't really want to get rid of it. But we're going to go through how I sort of did that with you today, and I'll do it in step by step, so it's sort of easy to follow, but I really hope you enjoy this. So let's jump right into it. So I'm going to be doing it on a Ranger. I picked up some black plus scales. I've already removed the scale from the back after I put them on. And we're just going to go into the easy step by step, but you can do it all with one Swiss Army knife with the metal saw and a large blade or a small blade. That's all you're going to need for this. So once you take off the scales, of course, you'll see you want to remove the pin from in there so you don't flick it across the room like I nearly did. And if you remove the pen, just to make things a bit easier so it's not dropping off and getting in your way. And you'll see down here the secret fourth slot, but you can see it is blocked off with some of the scale material. And all we're really going to be doing is going to file that away slowly and create a new slot for it so we have to get the tool in. So first off, what I like to do is to sort of make the area smooth and sort of cut some ridges, I would say, so that it's not going to go beyond where you want to cut. So I would get the blade, line it up with the two side grooves here, and just make a little cut just for the file to follow. And then again on the left hand side, a nice little cut for the file to follow there as well. Might be quite hard to see, but you can see there's my two guidelines. That's where I want to follow, just to make sure I don't waver either side, because I want the tool to fit in there snugly without it sliding out. Next step, you want to get yourself the metal file out, and you're going to want to lay it flat on a table so you can use this smooth section here to rub inside the scale so you can follow that line without scraping away any extra material. So you're going to follow it like this, and you would just go very slowly and file away, making your way down the channel, and then the same the other side. So you can see where I've started here, you can see the bits filing away, and this next bit, to get the full potential of what you need, you are going to have to use the edge of a table. So I'm going to pause it here and then come back when I've done that so you can see my progression. Okay, I'm back. It took me maybe 30 seconds to a minute to sort of do it at a slow pace. And you can see now I have filed away a nice groove. It's nice and square because you follow the lines of the fourth slot groove. And you can see we have a nice tool opening here. And now you will notice if you look at the other tools, they're very sort of horizontal when the scale is vertical. So now what we're going to want to do is create that here. otherwise you're not going to have a perfect place for the tool to sit. For example, if I grab a tool for you to see as an example, let's use one a toothpick I've already cut down, made it into a nice point on the end, and you do have to modify the end, but I will show you that towards the end of the video. So you can see once you put the tool in there, it naturally wants to sit on that ledge. So what you want to do is very, very slowly file away till you can get that to fit flush in there without worrying about it sticking out. So you want to aim for something like this down here. And the best way I found to do that is to sort of just hold it in your hand or on the edge of a table, and with the saw you just want to work your way very, very slowly, flattening it out, not doing too much at a time, because it's surprising how much material this saw can take off in just a few strokes, especially of these Celador scales. You can see there, what's that, maybe 3 or 4 each side, and you can see how much has taken off already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit more off the camera, come back and show you what I've done and see if we need to do any more of the progress towards getting that tool to fit. Okay, so I'm back. That took me about a minute, just being very carefully, as I was showing in the video before, just slowly working my way down both sides, not to roll in too much of the plastic, just in this sort of motion, just to get that nice sort of flat edge in there. And you can see now we've got a nice flat channel, very similar to the back here. Now you don't want to go as deep because you are going to have to modify the head of this, because of course with a standard one they do fit the other end, so you can see this slope goes to the right where that would fit in the scale tool here. And then of course when you go to the other end of the tool you can see that the slope goes the wrong way, so we are going to be modifying that next. But if I show you the one I've previously modified, I've sort of changed the angle of that again, only with this saw, the saw here and the blade. Change the angle, so now when it slides in that channel, nice snug fit, doesn't drop out. And you can see we have a pretty good, needs a little bit more work maybe, just on the white tool, but you can see I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not professional, but it's done there to fit the tool in. It fits in there really snugly. No sign of it sort of falling out when you wobble. And on my previous attempts at this on the compact, it fits in there really snug. It doesn't drop out, nothing slides out, and I think I've done a pretty good job with that. But on to modifying the toothpick now. So you can see it's obviously way too long, and I've seen a couple of videos online similar to this, where what they've done is cut off the head of the toothpick and then moved it further down. And the problem I see with that is I would always be concerned that the glue is going to break when you want to pull the tool out, and then you're going to have half the toothpick stuck on the inside. So I've come up with a different way, and it basically is very simple. It's just cutting the other end of the toothpick off, just making sure you get the right length. So to do that, all I really did was pop the toothpick in there all the way down, and you can just about see where it's going to touch on this little square portion here. And I just very simply mark that with the blade on the Swiss Army knife. So just put a little mark in there, just so you know where to cut. So you can see, if you can see my mark in there, you probably can't on the camera, but I can see the mark. It's just here. I'm going to go ahead and then cut this off where the mark is. Just push down pretty much, and then cut that little tip off, and then that's pretty much waste. You can get rid of that. You just want to then check that the size fits in there perfectly. So pushed all the way down, you can see it is not touching this little groove between the pen and the ferro rod, and it fits in there nice and snug. So now what I like to do with that, I am going to use the larger blades, probably easier for this. You want to cut your toothpick back into a point on the end. So you just want to do a sort of a V cut on the end, cut one side off, and then try and make it as sort of symmetrical as you possibly can. And then you're left with something like this. But of course it is very square on the end, and if you like the toothpick fine on the end like I do, all I've done then is sort of go in at an angle, try and do this on the camera for you, go in at an angle and then shave it off at an angle so that you start cutting here and then finish towards the bottom, so you get a nice fine point on it. and that's pretty much straightforward. You just want to very, very carefully shave that off. Now I should really be doing this on a table, but just to show you guys, I will do it this way. Just want to be very, very careful not to cut too much off and not to cut your fingers. Well, that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. So there you can go. So you've got a finer point on your toothpick, and there's a point on the end there as well, while retaining this little lump which helps hold it in. And some of the other videos I found out that they were cutting it the other side of the lump, so it just looked a bit wobbly in there. So we'll go ahead and put that in the scales. See that it fits in there very nicely, it's not falling out, and then you have a nice little toothpick. Next up then, we're going to want to adjust the angle of this on the end. So the best way I found to do this is to hold it, leave it in there, hold it flat to the table, and then you want to cut at an angle like this. So using this side of the scale and this side of the scale as a guide, and then cut that corner off so you've not got too much to file. So I will go ahead and do that now. Try and find a good way for me to do it. So I'm just going to cut down like this, cut that little corner off, check it, probably cut a little bit more off. Of course, it's always better to do it in stages rather than cutting too much off and then ruining the toothpick. A bit more off. There we go, pretty happy with that. Next up is going to be how far it sticks up over the top. So for that as well, you could file it, you could cut it, it's entirely up to you. For me, I like to just throw it on the floor. And then after I've picked it up, I like to just cut this little bit down a bit. So I'm just going to put it on the table and then cut a bit off the top. Is it straight? Definitely not. Cut a bit off the other side without throwing everything everywhere. You can see you've cut a bit more off. Put this in here. Fits in there nicely. Needs a little bit of smoothing out. So all I would do that with would be with the metal saw again on the same Ranger. So you're doing all this with one Swiss Army knife. You don't need any other tools. It can all be done very simply. I would pop on the table so you've got a nice sort of sturdy file. Rest on the knife, of course, so it's not wobbling about. And just very, very slowly rub on the file to smooth off those edges which you've just cut, so you haven't got any sort of sharp corners on there. Just slowly filing it down, checking as you go, nothing sharp on there. And then there you have it. That's pretty much it. There's nothing fancy about it, nothing sort of anything else you really need to do. Yes, I need to tidy up the toothpick a bit, but as an instructional video, I think I've done a pretty decent job on that. But that's it, guys. That's how you sort of open up the fourth scale slot on a 91mm plus scale. And then all that's left to do, snap it all back together, put your tools in, and you retain your toothpick while keeping the ferro rod, the pen, and the tweezers without having to sort of compromise on anything. So get my toothpick, the new made up one, goes in the slot, my ferro rod in the original toothpick slot. The pen goes back in, and of course not forgetting the pin in the pin slot. And there you have the completed modification, retaining all the original tools while adding a couple of extra ones too, like the tinder, the ferro rod, and also retaining the corkscrew, which the corkscrew keyring, which is great. All with a Ranger. You can do it with anything else with a file. You can do it to any 91mm as long as it's the plus scales. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.